This lesson, we are going to be updating our dice game, and we built out a dice game earlier on, so now we're adding in those visible dice that we're creating and generating using JavaScript. You can pause the video and take what you've learned in the earlier lessons and apply it in this lesson, and you can take what you've learned in the earlier lessons and apply it within the game that you're building out. You can pause the video, try it out for yourself, and I'll walk you through how to update and how to add in that functionality that we had in the earlier lessons. So now what we want to happen is we want to have, again, that check to see which player wins. So the rolling of the dice, which dice wins, and then the player that is actually scoring and winning. So we want to add all of that functionality back in. So opening up our editor, we can keep this selection part, and we need to add in back in the ability to update these elements. So we need to make a selection of those elements. And we'll do the same thing that we had earlier where we had query selector and using the hash and then player one. So this will select out player one element, and we can update this as well to say player one and copy it and paste it, and we'll just update it to be player two. So now we have the containers elements that we can drop our new function in. We've got our dice roll. So we're going to update this instead of roll dice. We've got rolls, and this is where we're using that roll variable. So setting up a brand new array that's going to now contain the roll. And notice that we moved it off of the root level, so it's no longer a global variable, as we can keep rolls in here. Setting up our temp, and we use that in order to send a message to the user. So now we've got the two dice rolls. We need to issue the conditions to see which roll wins. So we've got it within an array where we can check to see if rolls 1 equals rolls 2, or index value 1, 0, and 1. And if it is, then what we have is a draw. So there's no winner. And then adding in else if, and I'm going to copy this part out, and then this will just be else. So else if, and this time we're checking to see if rolls index value 0 is greater than rolls 1, and if it's true, then that means that player 1 wins. And else, and we don't need a condition for this one because there's only one other option, and that means that player 2 wins. So now we've got the win conditions, and we can check to see who wins. I'm going to actually remove out some of this and create it within a function where we can do update output player 1 and then the value of the rolls. So passing that in, and then we're simply going to update the inner HTML. So we can copy this out, and I'll update output player 2 and the value of rolls. And then we're taking that output element and we're updating the inner HTML with whatever the value of temp was. Now what's happening here is that I'm using the player 1, so that's the object that I'm selecting there. So that allows me to select the element, and I'll show you how you can use that dynamically now, and we can pass that into the same function where we can get an update on that element dynamically just by simply passing in that element object as well as the value of the rolls. So those are the two parameters that we need. So this is update output, and we've got the element as well as the number that was rolled. And this is where we can use the builder. So let's paste that in. So this was just the code that I had earlier. So we've got holder, and we're using the builder method that we had before and using the roll dice, and in this case we need to pass in the number because we only have that one number to add in, and it's not going to be appending it to output, it's going to be appending it to whatever the element. So this is dynamic now. It could be element with player 1 or element with player 2, so we don't know, so we're going to be adding it in. And this also needs to be updated, that we're updating with element, and we're seeing if it's got any children, and if it does, then we're going to remove it out. And the same thing here. So element children. And then going down to our builder area, we're still building out those dice. So that all is working the same way. So let's try that out. And refresh, roll the dice, And now we've got the actual numbers showing up as dice within our game. We've got a draw, we've got player 1 wins, draw, player 1 wins, and so on. So you can have some fun with this. And this was the last part of the dice game challenge, where we were challenging you to put everything together that we've learned in the earlier lessons and build out this fully functional dice game. Try it out for yourself, build out your own version of the dice game.